Johnson.
Long time ago, I heard a celebrity say, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I'd have taken better care of myself. It is a little bit humorous, but in some ways it could almost be tragic to think, to live such a long life and have your body be in such disarray that you can't enjoy your golden years. Madam Contest Master, Toastmasters, guests, the person who said that was not a comedian. It was baseball great Mickey Mantle. Could you imagine a professional athlete speaking like that, wishing they'd taken better care of their body? Odd in a way. I heard something else that was incredible by a celebrity back in the 70s. I heard my first rock concert. It was Elton John, 1976, Madison Square Garden. It was fantastic. Were you there? I see you nodding. Not long after the concert, he was in an interview with one of the rock magazines at the time. And they said, Elton, you're coming out with one album after another. You're touring. You're doing all this. Elton, why? Why are you going at this pace? Elton said, I want to get all my touring in now because I don't want to end up some 40-year-old rocker. As if being 40 years old and rocking would be what? Pathetic, absurd, childish? Ladies and gentlemen, Elton John turned 70 last month and has not signed his retirement papers yet. 2 nights ago, John Giles died at age 71 of the Jay Giles Band. He was still touring. Could you imagine that? Back then, to think was pathetic. Today, it's still happening. I want to bring this topic a little closer to home. When my parents got married, they were in their early 20s. And at one point, my dad decided, let's take my parents out to dinner. So they took my grandparents out to dinner. They were in their mid-40s. They got to their location. Dad opens the door, pulls the seat back, impatient, like father, like son. Mom, come on, get out of the car, get out of the car. My grandmother said, someday you'll be in your 40s. As if being 40 means you should have trouble just the act of getting out of a car. My mom, being the ungrateful daughter-in-law, never followed in her mother-in-law's footsteps because when she hit her mid-40s, she took up aerobics. Not only took it up, became an aerobics instructor. And that was really tough to do in the 70s because people still worked out in gray sweat, so it was not fashionable. 10 years later, when she hit her mid-50s, she decided to take up lap swimming. She thought it would be pretty cool if maybe once, just once before age 60, she could swim a mile nonstop. She achieved the goal at age 58 and thought, well, if I could swim 1 mile, I could do it again, maybe again. By age 60, she was swimming 5 miles a week. Being the ungrateful son, not wanting to be shown up by his mom, I took up lap swimming. And not wanting to be embarrassed in front of my friends, in front of my mom, I signed up for the Alcatraz Challenge. There is something real called an Alcatraz Challenge. You get taken out to the island, you swim back from Alcatraz, and then you run over the Golden Gate Bridge and back. I was so excited when I came back, I called my mom and she goes, how was the water? Not how was San Francisco, how was the food, how was the Vegas, how was the Golden Gate Bridge? How was the water? Mom, it was cold and choppy, very cold and choppy. Later in life, I took up a part-time job with the Hartford Wolfpack, where I worked in their ice crew, moving the nets around, helping things during the game. By default, we also work for the UConn Division I men's hockey team. And sometimes I'm called upon to go in the locker rooms. At one point, I was in the men's UConn locker room, and there's a sign, a quote, over the lockers that says, don't be that guy who never does as he's told. Underneath it, it said, don't be that guy who always does as he's told. I realized when I read that, a good part of my life was like that. A life of sports, life in the military, 3 tours in the Middle East lugging bombs around. I eventually had to go in for my second back surgery. It did not go as well as the first one. In fact, it went so poorly, I ended up in intensive care for a couple of days. It was the first time since being an infant that I was not able to care for myself. And I saw they had a walker in the corner. Not a rocker, Elton John wasn't there, a walker. I eventually had to get the walker just to stand up. Eventually I started doing laps around the nurse's station. They said, okay, he's okay, he can get out of intensive care. A month later, I met with the VA doctor, and because I'm in the military, you're supposed to follow orders, do as you're told, chain of command, but the doctor said, you really shouldn't run anymore, because I was doing a lot of road races. And I said, but doctor, it's summer and I want to do a half marathon in Fort Lauderdale this fall. He goes, no half marathons. You really shouldn't race at all. I didn't follow the orders. I did the half marathon in Fort Lauderdale. And in honor of my mom, I jumped in the water right afterward to do it. It was a very good time. I've done about 150 races since then, and God willing, I'm doing okay. I wonder what I'd look like if I hadn't been. A year later, Mom died from her 4th bout of cancer. The oncologist said she never would have survived the first 3 if she wasn't so strong from being a good swimmer. It prompted me to come up with a philosophy about our bodies, which is this. Hear it as you want to hear it. I encourage you to move every part of your body, every which way it can possibly move, on a regular basis. Because if you don't, eventually, your body won't let you. Eventually, your body won't let you. I want to thank all of you for letting me look back on how life was, how it is now, and depending what you want to hear, how it could be. Madam Contest Master, Toastmaster, and guests, thank you so much for hearing me out.